was there 2 days uh, for my injuries. Anyway, I continually attempted to find out what process my complaint was going. I was still concerned about the fact that this officer, had drove me around in a car cuffed up and said I was under arrest, but never charged me with anything, never delivered me to a jail. But on top of that, I was trying to find out who these two individuals were, and I was running into dead ends every way possible that I could come into, and then because of my roommate battering me around, and he told me, he says, "You dropped that civil case against me, or I'm gonna kick the crap out of you." And he had his hand on my throat, pushed me up against the wall, and when he released me, I left the house and I went across the street down in the corner at this auto parts place, and I got on my cell phone along with these two witnesses, and I called the police, and I asked them if they could send a patrol car out, and I wanted to file complaint and charges against this guy for assault. Well, just my luck so happens that it was the same officer that cuffed me up the day before and escorted me around for 25 minutes in his car, was the one that came out there on the scene, and he was rude and abusive to me. He says, "Mr. Murphy, you're just having all kinds of problems, are you? You're just calling us all the time." And I said, "Sir, I'm not calling you all the time. I'm trying to do the right thing. Don't I deserve serve and protect like any other citizen? I'm still an American, and anyway, he immediately responded, in an abusive, threatening type way. He says, "Well, you need to move out of there and go somewhere else to live," he says, "before somebody kills you." And I says, "Listen, I got a lease. I've never had I've never broke a lease in my life. I'm 62 years old, and I've never failed to pay." And I felt trapped in that environment, because if I left, I could be held liable and taken to court and everything else. So I was going to have to stay balance of my lease. Anyway, the officer says that he wasn't going to go on over there and talk to. He wasn't going to go over there and talk to or charge my roommate with assault against me. In fact, he turned around and he says, "That's not an assault. That's disorderly conduct." Oh boy. Anyway, golly, I always thought if you put your hands on somebody, that's an assault. Anyway, I didn't expect anything much from him, and as a matter of fact, because of his behavior and his attitude and what he had done to me the day before, threatening manner and claiming that he was gonna, throw me in jail and make up some charge. I didn't trust him at all. As a matter of fact, I was a little leery of him. I was kind of scared of him, actually. I felt like, God, he's no different than the people that robbed and beat me. He's like a gangster himself. And anyway, after that incident, I was pretty gun shy, as they say. I was afraid to go out of my place after dark, because this officer, what he had done to me twice, and the way he treated me, and the way he, was intimidating. was afraid to go on out. Maybe he's driving down the street and see me and want to cause me some more grief. I don't know. From my head injury, I suffered pretty severe post-traumatic stress disorder, and I'm working on those issues. But I genuinely felt threatened and intimidated. I was afraid, maybe he'd just pick me up and take me out somewhere and shoot me and leave me there. I don't know. But I did not trust him. I was fearful of him. And when I talked to Sergeant Michael Amon, I advised him of that. I said, I don't know. I'm afraid. So I started at that point in time. I started going down to the shelters and finding, here I am being assaulted in my own home. Police don't do anything about it. I've been to Sherry, I can't remember her last name. She's out at Monmouth Aging Disability Adult Protective Services there in Gresham. And I explained to her my story and everything about how my roommate was assaulting me and threatening me and intimidating me and not paying any rent, and I was being abused. I'm an aged, disabled person from my head injury. I was carjacked and robbed. It's not some self-induced, alcohol or drug problem that I created my head injury. No, I was a victim of crime. Anyway, I just was having so much trouble trying to deal with, not only the injuries, but then the threats and intimidation and harassments and I didn't know what could ever possibly happen. I was even afraid of going out to the police station. I don't know, Anyway, I started bringing home some homeless people, that I met because I was afraid to go home alone. I have not a clue what my roommate would have done. And anyway, I started bringing home, several homeless people into my home. They seemed respectful. They never helped me out financially, but I felt secure, because nobody else was protecting me. Nobody else was serving justice for me. Nobody else was doing anything. I did an awful lot of praying, and I'll tell you, I think probably because my prayers were answered, because otherwise I'd probably be dead today. Who knows? Because of everything that has transpired. Anyway, then July 11th, I received a telephone call from out of state that my elder brother was involved in a motorcycle accident, and I should get up there. He's in the hospital. And at that point in time, I had a lady by the name of Timmy Schuster, who is a student out at Portland Community College. I don't know what campus. Anyway, she had been staying in my house for probably 4 months at that point in time. Never paid me any rent, but kept promising that when she got her student loan or grant or whatever it was, that she wanted to pay half rent. And I got a lot of promises, but nothing ever flourished on that matter. But when I left, because of the call about my brother being in the hospital, I left her some cash, a couple $100. I didn't know how long it was going to be. The reason why I left her that much was because she told me she didn't have the money at that point in time. She paid me back. She needed to get her student ID and her state ID and stuff like that for her college. Anyway, also I gave her extra money because I told her, I said, I don't know how long it'll be. I didn't have time to pack, and ended up just taking off, an airplane without anything, no clothes or nothing. I was in a hurry. My brother had died. I took care of arrangements, and by the time I returned Sunday, August 5th, I discovered that my house had been burglarized, for everything, literally everything. Everything's furniture, electronics, stereo, underwear, socks, golly, toothbrush. They just wiped me out completely. It was almost like somebody was setting up house. And there was also probably about 200 beer cans all strewn out throughout the house, and garbage and paperwork and everything else. My neighbors had told me at that time that she was partying every single night that I was gone had about 12 or 15 guys in the house partying down every night, wildly and crazy and loud. And then they also told me that they saw them carrying out my property, and at first they claimed, anyway, I'm just taking their word for it, they claimed that they finally recognized Timmy Schuster, and at that time she had red hair, and saying that, they were confronting her and everybody that was hauling stuff out of my house, and then they saw her, so they thought everything was fine. When I cleaned up my house, I discovered evidence that I wanted to produce to the police, which they did. They failed. They didn't want to take anything from me. They never called, never returned my calls, never responded to my calls. But I found a letter that this Timmy Schuster had written to some guy that she knows, but never mailed it, and it was just laying with all the other garbage strewn throughout the house, and it was in her signature and everything, saying that I guess Stephen left out of state, and I guess I inherited all this stuff. Well, I had, I didn't realize how much stuff I had, but I had a lot. Anyway, I tried to give that information to the police. They wouldn't take it. They wouldn't respond to anything. And prior, when I first talked to Sergeant Michael Amon, he gave me his card, and he wrote his personal cell number, mobile phone number, on the back of the card, and he told me if I need to, I can contact him at that number. Well, after I found that letter, I called every day for weeks, and he wasn't returning. I'd send him text messages and everything, and I got a copy of my text messages, but he never ever responded. I thought if they were really concerned about, following up on that police investigation, into my robbery and everything else, that, that's what you do. You go to them with any kind of evidence or leads that might assist them, to find out who it was and bring them to justice, whatever. And like I said before, and I still feel that way, there is no justice for me there. I consider the Gresham police to be no different than gangsters. And they will do anything that they want. Anyway, I had called, and finally I left a text message to him and to Michael Amon, Sergeant Michael Amon, and I told him about the letter and everything, and I says, please, I've been trying to reach you, and you've never returned my call, and he still never did. So I got desperate. I've already talked to everybody that I could think of, and I was committed to having to serve out this lease term. That was my legal obligation, and so I went to, since I wasn't, I initially called the mayor's office, everybody, city commissioner, city council, and everybody. And the one time that I did call, one time that I called, and I was told by Sergeant Michael Amon's boss, who was, I guess, he was the duty sergeant or duty, anyway. He's the one that advised me to get a hold of the chief and make a